recording this session. And last week's that we did on Real Reports is posted in the Coldwell Banker Premier YouTube. What do they call it? Their learning channel. I think it's learning channel. It's also, marketing said they put it in the weekly lineup. So if you go through your important documents, you can access the YouTube link there, or you can access it through the weekly lineup. Something my agents have experienced, if you're not logged into your Banker Premier account, it may give you a hard time trying to log in. So just make sure that you are logged into your CBP account, and then you'll be able to open the important links document as well as the link in the weekly lineup. So we're just waiting on our guest speaker. So hopefully Matt will join us quickly. Today's session is going to be on the secured sale program, and that's basically where your seller does not have to have the contingency of selling their current home in order to purchase another one. So Matt's going to be joining us to give us all the details. There he is, the man of the hour. You're on mute.
People come and go so quickly around here.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to end a phone call and I'm going, okay, wrap it up, I gotta go.
So I have started the recording.
Perfect.
So this is Matt Haberlie. He's the regional manager for Success Mortgage. For any of you who have not met him, great guy.
Thanks.
And he helped my oldest son relocated a year ago from California. So he and Matt had a lot of things to talk about, being in the LA metro market. So thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having us.
Of course, happy to. Just want to let everybody know that we are recording this and it will be posted. So Matt, you can take over presenting and do whatever you want to do.
Yep. Give me 1 second to get that going. All right. Well, thank everybody for showing up and attending this class on the secured sale or as we call it, the buy before you sell program. I'll just start with that for education. It can be either one. I'm sure on your guys' seller sheet, it's put down there as secured sale. For us, we often call it buy before you sell. These things are exactly the same thing. So don't feel like, wait, which one is which? They're the same exact thing. Don't sweat. For the purpose of this training, I'm probably going to call it buy before you sell, but it's the same thing. Also, guys, feel free to stop me at any moment if you have questions. Don't let me, my law officers will tell you I will ramble on until you stop me. So stop me, please, for everybody's benefit here. So, but we'll get started. So let's see here. Okay. The first thing you guys need to know with buy before you sell, before we choose to do buy before you sell, stop and have your loan officer get them pre-approved. This is not a program for everybody. This is a very specific program that works for some borrowers and does not work for all borrowers. Your loan officer is qualified to make that determination based on their pre-approved. Often I've had a couple of situations where agents have reached out to me and they thought maybe the buy before you sell was a good idea. Once we started looking at me getting into it with the borrower turned out to have a whole bunch of funds that they could use for their down payment. So it really wasn't necessary to do the buy before you sell program. This is really for specific situations, not for blanket everybody across the board, no matter what. So before you do buy before you sell, check with your loan officer and get them pre-approved first. Specifically the types of loans, and this is why, again, it's not for everybody, is the only type of loan that we can use for the purchasing of their new property would be a conventional loan or a VA loan. So for example, often with people with lower FICO scores, we're going to use an FHA loan for that type of borrower, and they won't qualify for a conventional loan. So again, if they don't qualify for a conventional loan, we can't do buy before you sell. So that's why it's so important to have the loan officer pre-approve them, make sure that they can fit into one of those two buckets, either conventional or VA. So with all those caveats out of the way, let's kind of get into exactly what the buy before you sell is and what it kind of does. The buy before you sell, the biggest benefit of this program, it's for borrowers who, when we're looking at their debt to income ratio, because that's the main way we qualify borrowers, is too high when we combine the payments they're paying on their departing residence and the amount of money for their new property. In most typical loans, you cannot exceed 50% of their gross income. That's their debt to income ratio. And therefore, to eliminate that departing residence payment off of there, we do this program because that will actually remove that out of the calculation. And it actually also benefits in the respects of if you have a borrower who's saying, okay, Matt's saying with the two payments combined, I can only get pre-approved, for example, $200,000. Well, now if we remove that one payment out of there, now they qualify for much more. And depending on your area, that might be beneficial to that borrower. The other biggest solution this is a fix for is, as you see from this, 56% of people who are selling their old home and buying their next house, they need the funds from that close to then have the money for the down payment on the new house. So it's and that becomes a whole chicken with the egg kind of situation of, well, how do I get the new house if I haven't sold the old house? How do I make this all happen? Again, part of this and what I'm going to be going into a little bit more depth is how this program will allow you to access the equity from your departing residence to use for a down payment on your new house. So, and I guess I got ahead of the next slide here in the respects of that's exactly what this is talking about. I will kind of emphasize, I guess one more thing from a realtor's perspective is I think anybody who's has a listing out here knows that when you receive a offer and it's contingent on the sale of the prior house, you're just going, oh man, I don't want to put my sellers in that position. I don't want them to be in a, well, maybe the other house will sell, maybe the other house won't sell, maybe this deal will happen. That's the other biggest benefit of this. This will take away the guesswork because it removes the contingency, sale contingency for your buyers so that they can purchase that next house and know with 100% sure it's going to go through. I'm going to stop right here and give an open, any questions? Hopefully I'm not going through any of this too quickly. All right, no questions. I'll move right along here. So the basic steps for getting this done is once you guys kind of identified that that is the situation, send it over to your loan officer, let them do the pre-approval. They say, yep, absolutely, we cannot get these people pre-approved unless we get that payment removed. So we're going to send them a link to have them fill out a questionnaire. Basically, you know, simple stuff like their balance, etc. Once they've filled out that questionnaire, they will then be sent a link to take some photos. Guys, these don't have to be, I mean, if you guys already have the photos done on their departing residence because you're about to list it, great, that's fine. These don't have to be those photos. They just want to make sure that the house is actually there physically. So they'll give them a list of, you know, take a picture of the kitchen, take a picture of the living room. It does not have to be completely, you know, perfectly, you know, photos. As well, they will send you as an agent a link, just asking you simple questions like, you know, what are you expecting to sell for? What are you listing it for? What's your time frame on listing it? How quickly do you think it's going to be moving on and off the market? Once all those things are done, you are set in place as the agent. I'm going to tell you in a little bit why that's important, but you are linked forever to this transaction. Again, as I said, it's kind of the simple steps are this. once they've done all those things, they will automatically give us an automated value for the property. This is very, very important, guys. And here's a perfect example of this. You say to them, I'm going to list this house for $300,000. They are not necessarily going to give the value for themselves of $300,000 because they need a little bit of room. So what they're going to do is they're kind of going to do what we would consider a lowball offer of maybe 290, 285. This is kind of their own safety measure in case the house doesn't sell right away, that they got a little fudge room that they didn't overpay. We're going to come back to in a little bit the fact that even though they're doing the lowball offer, that does not hurt the client. Eventually, it all works out the same when the client sells it in the future. But it does give them this lowball offer. They will then allow the borrower to unlock up to 75% of the value of the property. So let's all have a little fun loan officer math time here in the respects of if they said, okay, the house is going to be worth $285,000, the max they would be able to do, the max is $213,750. And let's say your borrower told you, I currently owe $150,000 on the property right now. So that's $63,750. That would be the max amount of equity that borrower can unlock to use for the down payment on their next property. Does that make sense? I see some nods. I'll take that as a yes. All right. So that is their max amount. And they can also use those funds, just so you guys know, it doesn't have to be for down payment. They can use it if they need to do some repairs, painting, fixing up the house, if they need to pay for movers. We're going to discuss in a little bit, but they can also just hold in reserves to make payments on their departing residence loan going forward in the future as they hold on to that house for a little bit. So as for you guys as the agent, this is a common question that comes up very often is, okay, and I'm actually, let me pause and kind of back up a little bit. How they remove this all from the debt to income ratio is they put a contract on the departing residence of the borrower. So when they put that contract in place, that's what removes it from the sale contingency, because they are essentially the buyers. Their goal is not to buy that house, just for the record. They are doing this simply so that they can facilitate me as the loan officer to not have to account in the debt to income ratio. And you can almost think of it as a backup offer. They're still going to employ you guys as the agent. You're still going to go ahead and list that property. You have up to 120 days to get it sold. And they will never execute that contract as long as you get it sold in 120 days. Now, after 120 days, what's going to happen is they will go ahead and execute the contract. They take ownership, but they retain you as the agent on that property. They will then start communicating with you, having a kind of conversation of, hey, look, this has been on the market for 120 days. Why didn't it sell? You're the expert, you're on the ground. You'll be able, hey, look, I actually told the buyer that we probably needed to reduce the price by $5,000, and the buyer just refused. They'll be a little bit more willing to work with you. And again, back to why in our example, they gave that lower, purchase price on the contract, is because then they do have room to say, oh, well, you listed it for 300. We gave you a contract for 285. You thought it would have sold at 295. Okay, let's relist it now for 295. And, just because the buyer refused to go down on the price on the property. So they'll communicate and work with you guys on that. If it does do that, for example, or let's just even say a hypothetical here, you continue to list it with the company and it sells for 320, your borrower does not lose out. Even though they've executed the contract at 285, your borrower does not lose out on the benefits of you selling it over asking. they will still get that additional funds over asking benefit from everything. So that's a little about that. Does anybody have a question on that? Because I know that kind of trips some people up from time to time. Man, Debbie, this is going to be easy on me. You tell me, Debbie, you got any questions? Oh, still.
Muted. Hold on, I'm muted.
There you go.
No, all good. So what I'm hearing you say, there's a lot of moving parts here. So I think before either myself or any of my agents, it's like you've got to work hand in hand with your loan officer. You need to speak with them. You need to work them, have them help you work through this. As much as I love all my agents, we're not all numbers people.
Right.
So,
yes. And some of this is very, you almost have to do one of these to understand it, because it is very step by step kind of, okay, this is making sense. This is making sense. The biggest factors is know that it'll get rid of your debt to income ratio issue, help you qualify for more, borrower can access their equity, and you as an agent don't lose under any circumstance of how this goes. It's still your buyer, your listing for the departing residents, no matter what. So, kind of just give you a small, quick overview of the property, what property types. Single family residences, townhomes, and condos. I am going to point out, if you do have like a retirement home or something like that, that's not okay. Some rural properties, because of course we function in a lot of our markets have rural properties that have septic and well. Those are on a case-by-case basis. If it has septic or well, there will be additional fees to determine that, because you're going to have to order a septic and well test, and that will come out of the borrower's pocket. So just be mindful of that. That can be an additional fee on there. Other than that, house has to be valued more than 150,000. Has to be bigger than 150 square feet. Have at least one bedroom, bathroom. So I don't think we have anybody in the market where there's studio condos, but no studio condos. I will notate. I don't know. Do we got any? Raise your hand if you're a Florida agent. If we got any of our Florida agents on here. Okay. In Florida, they will only do single family residences. They will not do condos. They will not do townhomes in Florida. Okay. And the property cannot be within 2 miles of the coast. So that is a very
seeing only one agent with their hand up.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, good.
But important for her to know that for this program, got to be more than 2 miles away from the coast, and only single family residences, no condos. I think if you're a Florida agent, you kind of know why they don't want to do condos in Florida. There's been a little thing on that. So property can be already listed, can be already in the market. I've literally had situations where property was listed, they started this process with me, and it got sold before we even got to that point. That's perfectly fine. No harm, no foul. We will just stop the process in the middle there. So no requirements on that. This is the big one. This is kind of the number one, I guess, thing that trips people up. Is there is a fee for this service that they're requiring you to pay, and that's 2.4% or $9,000, whichever one is greater. So if you have a small purchase price, it's going to be the 9,000. If it's a larger amount, then it's going to be the 2.4%. Now there is no payments whatsoever on that equity unlock. So in other words, back to our example here, that $63,000 that they're using for the down payment or fixing up the house or whatever, there is no payment on that whatsoever through the 90-day period between the time of selling, getting into contract with the company that works on these to the date in which they sell. They will make no payments whatsoever. And then, like I said, I mentioned before, it's 90 days. At the 90-day point, they have to make a decision if they're going to sell it to them Sometimes they can actually get an extension, just so you guys know, if you're just real passionate that I think I can sell this, or maybe you guys are in contract, but it won't be done by the time the end of the 90 days. You can get an extension on those. You just got to let them know, and there's an additional fee for that. Other than that, I think that's the most important parts of this I want to make sure I cover with you. Oh, wait. Just, I don't see it in here, but I am going to address one more thing. They do need to continue to make payments on their old loan. So they're departing residents. Yes, they don't pay anything on the funds they withdraw, but they do make payments on their mortgage just as if they were still living there. So you can, however, use the funds that you take out for the down payment. Say, instead of you took 63,000 out, maybe you only want to put down 50,000 for the new down payment on the new property, hold back 13,000 of that to then make those payments over the next 3 months. So that's a thought and a strategy that you guys might want to know for that. So when you get these questions about the 2.4%, here's some thoughts on how to kind of overcome that. Because again, a lot of people are like, why am I giving up 2.4%? Well, right there, if you having situations where your offers aren't getting accepted, if you have to wait, to buy a house until this house is sold, avoiding having to move twice or 3 times, etc. These are all ways that kind of the 2.4% fee that they're charging overcomes these. Again, also, if you really think about it, you're not making payments on this. Back to our example, $63,000 you've unlocked. Some of those fees are going towards essentially what you would have been paying if you had borrowed that money for 3 months. So all kind of different ways to reframe or think about it, that you're getting access to equity and not having to do multiple different moves. And I know when I moved across country, it was close to $9,000 for all the trucks, the movers, and everything else. If I had to do that twice, that would have been a hefty fee. I'll just put it to you that way. So this kind of avoids all that. They did start something new, guys, by the way. If you have run into a situation where your buyer does not need the equity, they have their own cash for the down payment, but there's still a debt to income ratio situation. They now have a lower fee version of this that's only 1%, that they'll write the contract on the property, remove it from the debt to income, but they won't require you to, they don't give you any of the cash. And if they don't give you any of the cash, then it's only 1% or $5,000, whichever one is greater. But it does the same thing. I'm actually going to go rogue here for a second and kind of revisit something, because it kind of addresses this issue. If you guys do have a VA client, by the way, I'm at some point going to be teaching a class on VA. You can have more than 2 VA loans. Typically, so for example, you don't maybe need the cash because you're purchasing the next property as a VA loan. It just simply has to be the combined amount of the 2 loans has to be less than the conforming loan limit in your county. So again, most of us, I think that's going to be, 860 something thousand. So if one loan's 200,000, one loan's 400,000, that's under the 800. Therefore, you can have 2 VA loans, and then they don't need the down payment. But for example, they may need this to get rid of the other property out of the debt to income ratio to be able to qualify for the purchase of the other property. That's why I bring that up. And honestly, guys, I think that's it. That is pretty much the secured seller in a nutshell here. Again, I'd love to hear any questions, thoughts.
Okay, so as far as all my agents are, the big question is, heaven forbid, what if the house doesn't sell?
Okay. So yeah, that's probably the number one question. Like I mentioned before, If after 90 days the house is not selling, then they can you can pay an extra fee for an extension. Or more often than not, people are going to execute the contract. The company behind this is going to execute the contract. They will take ownership of the property at that point. Like I said, they'll still employ you as the listing agent for that property. And then when that property inevitably sells, if it just sells for what they bought it for, that's it. We're all said and done. If it sells over that, then the borrower will still get whatever the additional overage is. Joe.
So if they take ownership of the house, the departing house, what purchase price are they taking it at?
They're going to discuss that with the agent. Again, back to the biggest thing is they're going to first start the whole thing with a conversation with the agent going, hey, it's been on the market now 3 to 4 months. Why is it not selling? And, that kind of conversation is going to go down to determine, do they need to reduce the price? Do they need to do something? Maybe here's another example, agents, and might be super easy for you guys to get. You've been telling the person, hey, this house needs to get repainted. It needs a little, spit and polish on it. Let's clean the carpets because they look disgusting. Maybe that's the reason it hasn't been selling. They're going to have that conversation with you guys, and honestly, they're probably going to listen. And again, because they kind of put in a low ball offer, they have some room to work with to maybe do that, do a repainting or cleaning of this, that, or the other thing, to make it look a little bit nicer. That's really going to be a conversation between the agent and the company. What else?
Amelia, your hand is up. Is that from before, or do you have a question?
Was from before.
Okay.
From Florida.
Thank you.
These are Florida person.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anybody else? Okay, Matt, they're letting you off easy.
Wow.
I have a question. Not so fast.
All right, there we go. Thank you.
I know it's not as much of an issue right now in this current market in the Hampton Roads area, but in Florida, we've unfortunately 90 days has become not so alarming. Do you think as the world continues, or hopefully doesn't, to be this unsteady, that 90 days would be adjusted perhaps? Or does it depend on the market? Do you look at the average days on the market for that area for the MLS and make considerations? Or is it just straightforward, this many days and that's that?
It's straightforward, that many days, and that's that.
Okay.
Again, the borrower can opt for an extension. I think they give them a couple of different options at a couple of different price points, because I had somebody recently, when I say recently, last year, they were presented with, if you want to continue to try to sell it yourself, I want to say it was like a 1% fee to extend it out an additional 3 months. But that's them selling it themselves. They can always allow them to execute the contract. They take over, the company takes over, and they will still reap the rewards if it gets sold for more. They also, think about this, excuse me, they are capping them at 75% of the purchase price and what they had it at. So when they execute that contract, the buyer is going to get the rest of that 25% there. And then once they take over and they list the property, if they wind up selling, here's another scenario I know you guys have. You guys sometimes cut the value, but then you wind up selling it for over what their original asking price is, because you just had to cut it enough to get 5-6 people interested and start having 5-6 people bid. So if it does sell for more, then again, that borrower is still going to get those funds from the sale of the property that was over asking. So more often than not, most people will opt to sell it, but if they're just dead convinced I'm the person, me and my agent are the best people to sell it, they can pay that 1% fee to go longer. Kathy? Kathy? Had a hand up?
Oh, if that was me, I was just cleaning
Oh,
my
no.
phone.
No, it's
Okay.
It's Kathy with
Okay.
C.
Kathy Bonneville.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Quick question. In the beginning, I wrote down 120 days to get it sold, never execute contract until 120 days. But there, when we were wrapping it up, you said 90 days.
Sorry,
Then-
let me
Yep.
clarify.
Uh-huh.
So at the 90-day point, you have to make a choice. And this clock, just so you guys know, the date in which the clock starts is the date in which they move into their new house. So your buyer has left their old house. The day they moved in on their new house, that's when that clock starts. At the 90-day point, they have to make a decision if they want to execute the contract with the company and sell it to them, or they will be given till the end of 120 days to make a decision if they want to extend out do an extension. So, is that clear? Kathy? I'm just going to assume okay.
Yeah,
What
so
was that?
So at 90 days, they can go on and execute the contract. They don't have to wait to the 120.
Correct. They'll be given a choice of that 90
But
days.
at 120, the lender will execute if it hasn't sold.
Right.
Okay. Got
Exactly.
it. Thank you.
Matt, we have a question from Amelia in the chat. How
Oh.
long have you had this program?
Oh, I want to say going on maybe 2.5 years now. We probably have done a dozen to dozen and a half of these every single year. Again, it's not a program for everybody, but we do quite a few of these.
All right, and now Shelley Dance has her hand up.
Yep. Shelley?
Yes, Matt. I was wondering if you can help us position this to the clients in a clean, confident way, like say a quick script that explains both the upside and the risk without scaring them off.
I hear you. I can work on something like that for you. I will tell you, it scares a lot of people, the 2.4%. I'm not exactly sure how to make that less scary, other than I almost sometimes think it takes a client putting a couple of different offers in as contingent and their offers not being accepted, and almost to say, hey, this is the reason our offer isn't getting accepted. Maybe we need to go this route before they kind of see it and realize the benefits of it.
Okay.
But I will work on something for everybody.
Yeah,
Right.
Amelia put into the chat script or FAQ one pager.
Yep, I can do that.
All right, that'd be awesome.
We're gonna find out how fun ChatGPT can if I can throw this all presentation at ChatGPT and have it spit me out something.
Very good.
Cool. What other questions might everybody have?
Hey, Matt.
Yep.
One of the slides said that the incoming house cannot be FHA or VA or reverse mortgage. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure, let me go
There's so
back.
many VA loans down here.
I'm going wrong direction with my slides. Hold on 1 second.
It was the one with all the conditions,
Oh, I got you.
That's
That's not the reason why I say that is that's not exactly what it said, Chuck, and I want to get the exact wording down. That's why I'm trying to go back to it. Where did I see that? Okay.
incoming resident.
Actually, well, that is correct, but except for it just changed that they started to allow VA loans. So really what this should be is you on your purchasing house, meaning the house you're going to buy, you cannot use FHA and you cannot use a reverse mortgage to purchase the new house. Sorry, they just changed it on VA.
Yeah.
And I haven't updated that slide. I made that slide a while ago.
Yeah, I was afraid that might
Yeah.
that might confuse people because we had said it was VA.
I got you.
Thanks.
But yeah. Thanks, Chuck. Croy?
Hi, guys. We have a similar program within Coldwell Banker like this, don't we? Or is it
Well-
in conjunction with you guys directly?
Yeah, so as I said at the beginning, if you saw, I forgot what that little sheet's called, Debbie,
Seller services.
seller services sheet. If you see on there secured sale, this is the same thing as secured sale. And I don't know why, and I hope Stephen Meadows isn't on this call, but I'm just going to say, I don't know why he felt the need to confuse people by calling it something different. Hopefully he's not listening to me and nobody tell him I said this. But yes, if he had just said buy before you sell on there instead of renaming our product secured sale, it'd be less confusing. But when you see secured sale, success mortgage, buy before you sell. That's all.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. What other anybody else? All right. Well, I will if you guys I'm looking forward to teaching some more of these. Please reach out to me and email me if there's a topic you want me to cover. I know Debbie's got some great plans for some more classes, but I'm happy to jump in 2-3 weeks, whatever she wants me to. So if there's something specific you guys want me to cover, let me know. Reach out to your local loan officer for additional one-on-one kind of conversations about all this. And if you don't know who your local loan officer is or need an introduction to a loan officer, please reach out to me and I will say, hey, this is your guy in this area, and they'll help you and they'll talk all the way through this with you.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And for all of you on this meeting, this session has been recorded. It will be posted in the Premier YouTube training channel, just like last week's was. As I said at the beginning, you can access that either through the important links document or the weekly lineup that marketing sends out every week. Next week, we are going to be doing Market Ready. That is one of the seller services as well, where if your seller needs to have some cash to do curb appeal or make some, improvements, things that they can do. Katie, I'm going to put you on the spot because I know you used it personally.
Yes.
And you have said nothing but positive things.
Yes. It was wonderful.
I had a pretty nasty divorce situation that, lo and behold, I had a court order me to be the listing agent. That was fun. I sold this couple their house 13 years ago, and through their divorce proceedings, I got the joy of navigating their divorce, and they used it, which really made a huge difference in the purchase price for that home. So next week, we'll have Danielle Weinraub from the Market Ready program talking about how your sellers can get up to $50,000 to do whatever they want, quite frankly. I know Coldwell Banker and Anywhere has a different type program, but there are pretty severe limitations on that program. So Steve and Stephen put this one together, which is really wide open. So I thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Matt, for your time for secured sale. That's what we're calling it, right? Secured sale.
Secured sale. Secured sale.
So when you go looking for it in the YouTube channel, it will be secured sale, not buy before you sell. All right, everybody. Thank you again. We'll be back here next week at 1 o'clock. And please, my email is debbie.o'connell@Premier Move. Marketing has put it in all of the materials they've put out. If you have anything, any ideas, any suggestions, we have the calendar pretty much set from now till Memorial Day. Then we're going to do 2 weeks in June and then take the summer off while everybody's on vacation. We'll be back right after Labor Day and jump back into these. So I'm here to help you, whatever you need, whatever you're interested in, whatever you want more knowledge about, let me know, and we'll get the classes put together for you. So happy Monday and have a wonderful week.
Thanks,
Bye,
Debbie. Bye-bye.
Thank you.